On today's show, our guest is Peter Gasca. Peter is an accomplished business executive and consultant with over 20 years of experience managing and working with business teams across a variety of industries. Today, he provides business owners and entrepreneurs with innovative solutions to launching, managing, and growing their business. Peter co-wrote 1 Million Frogs, a book about entrepreneurial journey, and also regularly contributes to entrepreneur.com and inc.com. Thanks for joining us today, Peter.
John, super nice to be here. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, I always start off with, how do people know you by, or what do people know you by, and how did you start your career?
So, it's funny because I live in South Carolina, I live in Myrtle Beach, and my journey to entrepreneurship started a long time ago. I wasn't always an entrepreneur. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. I worked in corporate America. So I was working for a home builder right out of college. I originally wanted to go back to get my MBA to go do investment banking. So I went to graduate school to study finance and investment banking, and that was 2001. And then 9/11 happened and all the investment banking jobs dried up, especially for somebody with no experience and no finance experience. So I ended up moving overseas and working for the State Department, doing consulting over there. And I met my business partner there, and we would always kind of pass ideas back and forth. And I discovered through talking to him that, I had a lot of entrepreneurial skills and a lot of entrepreneurial experience just working within companies. So he convinced me to come back to South Carolina and start a business with him. So we ended up closing our project, moving to Columbia. He was originally from Charleston. I had never been to South Carolina before, didn't have a lick of furniture to my name. So it was really easy. I lived on his couch for, almost a year or so. And what we did was we found a business in Myrtle Beach that, actually, let me back up. Before we did that, we originally wrote a business plan to start a venture investment fund. It was very complicated, very in-depth prospectus. We were going to raise money from all of our rich friends and rich people in the Foreign Service to invest in undervalued companies. And again, had the whole business plan and everything. So then we wrote it and went out to look for money, and go figure, nobody was going to give money to two schmucks who had never done that before.
Yeah.
So we decided we need to prove that we need to prove that our concept works, right? So let's go with the money that we have. Let's buy a business that's undervalued, pretty it up, and then get rid of it, unload it, put all the management and stuff into it. And we discovered this business that was based in Myrtle Beach, and it was a small aquarium business that had these little ecosystem it was an ecosystem with little frogs in it. I ran the numbers on it. It was really undervalued for what they were selling and the quantities that they were selling. And it was the ultimate business case study that they had an amazing product, but they didn't know how to distribute it. Like how do you mail frogs and water and ecosystems? So I was like, this is exactly what we do, right? We're going to go in there and solve this problem, fix it up, turn it around, get the cash flow, and then we'll unload it to somebody. And that was in 2006. And then 2007, of course, Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, everything collapsed. And we were like, okay. In fact, they were taking back our lines of credit that we had gotten. They're like, sorry, that line of credit, we need it back now. And it's like, well, don't have it. So we ended up just hunkering down and like, all right, we're going to have to be frog people. Like, we're going to have to be this company and really just hit the road and sell it. And, we know it's got cash flow. So we spent 2.5 years just driving up and down the East Coast, all the way to the West Coast sometimes, and just selling frogs out of our vans. Wow. And so now when I meet people, I literally meet people around the area here that they'll remember me from those days, and they'll be like, oh, you're the frog guy, aren't you? Like, yeah, I'm the frog guy. That's right. So apparently I'm still, I still have that aura over my head, which is fine. I mean, we did really well with the company. As we were one of the fastest growing companies in the country. We did figure out how to ship it eventually. So we shipped it all across the country in every state. We were in Brookstone when Brookstone was around. They were our big first major retailer. So we got a lot. We did well. We did exactly what we wanted to do with it, but it just took us 8 years longer than we thought.
So you did eventually sell the business, and
we did.
That was a great case study to start to sell the idea to get into other avenues as well.
Yeah, well, we ended up selling the business. We did a reverse merger with some investors up in New York, and we were going to roll a bunch of stuff into again, it was like our idea, but they were doing it, so we were going to roll it up. It didn't go well at all. It's still it's still lingering. It's been 5 years now. It's still lingering out there. Obviously, we didn't get paid or rich off of it or anything like that. So, you know, it was, again, it was a good learning experience. I don't regret doing it. But it was 5 years ago when I sold it, and it's an interesting. We talked earlier about thinking about the journey, and I thought of this. I mean, I'm okay with not being an entrepreneur right now, right? So 5 years ago, or it was about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, my daughter was born, and I was buried into the business, right? And at that point, I had a 5-year-old son, and I just didn't have the time for them. And I made the conscious effort like 5 years ago that, you know what, I'm going to take a step back. And I got a job here at the university to teach, which was also one of my bucket list things. And I said, I'm going to, not be on the road 4 weeks a month and actually spend some time with my kids. So, and my kids talked about me all the time. Like, are you going to start a business someday soon? I'm like, yeah, when you guys get out of the house, when you turn 18, you guys are out, by the way. Like, I'm kicking you out. You're on your own. I'm going to go back to my life before because, but yeah, so I took a step back, and I've been enjoying raising them, actually really enjoying teaching. It's always been on my bucket list thing to do, but I'm still always got my toe in somewhere, 3 or 4 different things going on at the same time.
No, that's amazing because, these are some of the pillars that I always talk about, right? And if you value family over your business, especially when you're single, business could be it, right? Mm-hmm. But when things happen, like you get married, you have children, you have to put that in one of the strongest pillars, right? And then you map out what everything else you want around it, as that is the centerpiece, and nothing's gonna break that out, right? So and I always put like calendar, if you have a busy calendar, put family stuff there first, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then stuff that you think is the most important assets, right? Like do it first. So no,
you're spot on. You think I have blocking in my calendar. I can show it to you. It's like a bunch of areas, like tonight's family night, Friday, Monday, Friday, Sunday nights are family movie night.
Yeah.
My mornings are exercise mornings. I don't let any, so if somebody's like, the only time I can meet you is at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, I'm like, I can't. I mean, that's my exercise. That's my me time. And
exactly.
you're spot on. You have to make that time for yourself.
And so like health and wellness and all that stuff, like going to the gym or having a hobby, if you value that more, then put it in and do it, right? Mm-hmm. Because business and life will always happen. And yeah, it may take you a little bit longer or whatever it is, but it's okay because you need a life, right? You can't have your business run your life.
Right. And when you start a business, it is going to run your life if you don't control it enough, right?
But you learn as well, right? Like you, myself, and a lot of these entrepreneurs who are just starting their business, you're putting in extra hours, you're putting a lot of hard work because you don't really understand what it takes, right? Mm-hmm. And until you kind of start reflecting back and, just peeling that onion away, right? And then you kind of realize what is really important in my life. Why am I ultimately doing this, right? Yeah. And then once you realize that, then you can put things in action in place.
Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs put like money and fortune too high on that list because you probably know, I mean, it's not about that. It's about building something, leaving a legacy, controlling your own destiny, having something that you can build and grow and say that you're proud of. Cause I mean, I'm guessing you're doing fairly well, but we did fairly well with our business too. But I'm happy. And then eventually we sold it and again, didn't make any money off of it, but that's fine because now I have an experience. I have, I get to meet people like you because of this experience. So yeah, you can't put a dollar amount on all the experience when you do that.
Exactly. And what is life about anyways? It's all about experiences and relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And if you can value those two things and get as many of those out there, I mean, you're going to be enjoying life, right? So a little bit about so right now you're teaching at a local university. Mm-hmm. What kind of subject is it? Also in entrepreneurial or sales and marketing or business?
Well, I do consulting on the side. I do a lot of startup entrepreneurial consulting, also idea consulting for local businesses. And actually what I do teach courses here. I teach everything from intro to business to MBA level courses in leadership and creativity. But actually my one job when I met the dean here and she offered me a position here was to start a consulting curriculum for school, for students. And it is, a small pitch to our Wall College of Business here. Like they're really making a push to differentiate from other universities because, and I believe this, that the best way to get experience is to go do things, not learn it in a textbook or sit in a classroom and have somebody lecture to you. You have to apply it. And more importantly, you have to fail, stumble on your face, get up. And so there's no better environment in the university setting to be able to fail because you have the support to get back up. So I started 4 years ago, a consulting curriculum called the Community and Business Engagement Institute. So I take students, undergraduate students, I vet them. We do a lot of professional development. And then we do business consulting. So, during the summer and my off hours, I'm doing my own consulting. And during the school year, we do consulting through the students so that they can get experience working with individual entrepreneurs. So they would meet directly with people like you, ask you what kind of issues you have, ask you about your business, go back to the drawing board, do some research, look up best practices, consult with me and other faculty members, and then come back to you and go, here are a few things that we think can be beneficial. And the crazy thing is what I found is and I know that, and a lot of experienced entrepreneurs know, is we all have the same problems. Like we all, we're not creating the next Black-Scholes discount model, right? We're not reinventing solar panels. We're doing marketing strategies in the 2019. We're doing like setting up chart of accounts for entrepreneurs who have no finance experience. Like these are just common issues that everybody has. And I see that with the students because they go, oh, I made a recommendation that the entrepreneur said, thank you. I hadn't heard about that, right? Like cloud computing is such a obscure thing for a lot of local a lot of business people here, like putting things in the cloud. So when they got students go there and they explain the cloud to them, they go, I actually know something. I'm like, yeah, of course you do. There's value to the education, but you wouldn't know that unless you applied it. So I've been having a really good time doing the consulting stuff.
It sounds like a lot of fun because I do something on a similar level here. I mentor a lot of the small business, business centers in my region. And it's a lot of fun, like just guiding them. And a lot of these entrepreneurs haven't even gone through business school or they don't have the fundamentals in place, right? So you just suggesting some of these new technologies or different platforms or software that can actually improve their business or give them ideas like, have you even thought about, simplified bookkeeping or simplified operations or efficiencies, things like that they don't even think of, right? So just giving advice and helping others is a great feeling.
And it's awesome that you do that too, because I always tell entrepreneurs, like, go find a mentor. I had some after I got into business, but man, I could have used a couple of people on my shoulder, buying that first business, getting things started.
Yeah.
It would have been so nice to have somebody, just if nothing else, to sit there and go, you know what, the problem that you think you have right now, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yep.
Don't worry about it. Like that's minor. Wait till this thing explodes, so.
And I think that happened when I started as well. I was putting so much emphasis on the little things that really didn't really matter in the big picture. And yet I felt it did, right? And so I wasted a ton of time. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, why did I just spend 2 days on it when I could have just done something else that would have really moved the needle or done something else, right? Like, it's just, but you learn, right? And without doing that mistake or, learning, you're never going to be successful, right?
Yeah. No, I tell a great story in the book that you mentioned, 1 Million Frogs, is, like first month or something like that we started our business, we had a warehouse, like we bought the business, right? So we moved into the warehouse and something happened in the aquariums and it flooded. It just flooded our place and flooded the guy next door. And the guy next door, he was a very stereotypical South Carolinian. He had gun racks and he had deers hanging, deer heads, and he played poker like late at night. So he came bustling over and he so angry and incensed about being flooded and we were going to pay for everything. And it was my first panic attack I've ever had. I had to go behind the building, crawl into a ball, because I was like, I'm about to die. Right. Okay. And so we fixed the problem. I bought him some beer and he was our best friend afterwards. Right. Didn't even have to replace anything.
Yeah.
But that was such a, like, and then fast forward where I've had like major catastrophes in the business. And it was like, okay, let's work through it. Let's figure it out. By Monday, if we don't fix it, we're going to close the business. And, it was no more panic attacks. Like, so, you learn through that experience. But again, it would have been great to have somebody on my shoulder going, God, relax, man. It's fine. You don't need to stress out about this too much. It's going to be okay. Here's what you do. Go buy them some beer.
Exactly.
Make them feel good. Tell them you're sorry. Pay for somebody to come and blow it out and dry it out, and you'll be fine. And we were. And like I said, just little things like that would have been nice to have somebody there for me.
It's just people, right? So the big thing is get to know people, and people get angry, customers get angry, right? Your clients get, whatever it is, right? Like your staff members get angry all the time. It's like, understand why they're angry and then figure out what the root is, and then just always apologize no matter what, like empathize, right? And all these little things. I learned these skills in sales, right? I've been doing sales all my life. So all these things are like emotional stuff that building a strong relationships. Once you understand that and uncover why, then you can overcome them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree. Like a business, yeah, it's a business. Life, there's other things outside of a business that's more important, right? So if you really think about what's the worst that can happen to your business, okay, you lose money, go get another business that will make money.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, what's the worst that can happen, really? Just close it down, start another one. But people don't think that way, right? Especially if they've been in it for 5, 10, 20 years, right? Like that's their life, that's their baby, right? So what's the worst can really happen? I mean, you don't want to lose your significant other or that family member. That's probably the worst that can ever happen. So if that's the worst, it's only a business, right?
Yeah.
So I always look at like the big picture and everything, right? Versus the minuscule, why is this not working? Like, why is the staff showing up late? Well, they probably have a family problem. There's transportation problems. What's the big deal, right? They'll make it up. Like, so what, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I mean, that's what you should be telling everybody, because they in the end you will survive if your business fails, but you will not survive if your health fails or your family fails. I mean, you'll survive, but you'll be far worse off.
Exactly. And understand, like, why are you running a business in the first place? Is it to have control? Like, people love hating. They don't like having bosses, right? So they want to be in control. Or is it really to provide for your family or do other things, right? Like, figure that out. So I know we talked about this earlier about like, how do you start your business, but were there anyone that kind of inspired you to become who you are? Like, I know you partnered up with your business partner, but was there anyone that kind of inspired you, inspirational people over the years?
I didn't think about the question yet, but actually, I would probably say it would have to be my business partner. He'd be very happy for me to say that, because, first of all, he talked me into coming to South Carolina.
Nice.
Side note, the ironic thing is I'm still in South Carolina and he's moved away. He's doing things overseas with his family. He's living a life of luxury, as I always give him a hard time. But no, I mean, he was the person who talked me into, basically said, listen, you can do this, right? We're an entrepreneur. And him and I used to butt heads all the time about whether you are born an entrepreneur or whether you can learn to be an entrepreneur. He was convinced you were born. You're either born or you're not born to be an entrepreneur. And I was convinced that, yes, you can learn it, because look at me. I learned how to be an entrepreneur, right? I had really no inclination, really. I was trying to work my way up the corporate ladder. I wanted to try different jobs, and I had my panic attack that first week. And eventually I got over it and really became a decent business manager, right? Because I learned how to handle the stress and the anxiety. But then he would always counter. He's like, yes, but you've always had that. Like, it's always been in you. You just needed somebody to spark it. And he's probably right, maybe, because he was the spark. He was the one that wouldn't let me say no for, starting this business. He was the one that really always pushed. Yeah, so I mean, it took a catalyst, right? Maybe it was in me the whole time, but it took somebody to
Get
really
it out of you.
bring it out of me for it. So, and I probably owe a lot. I've never reflected on it like that before, but I do. I owe him a lot for where I am now.
Yeah, and once you start looking back and uncovering like why you're doing what you're doing or how you became who you are, like I'm now at a point where I give a lot. I want to thank people. Even my first boss,
Mm-hmm.
I would ring them up and say, I owe you so much for teaching me, certain things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
got me to what I am today, right? Like, because really it's all about appreciation, right? And there's so many people that kind of guided me to who I became, and I love everyone for it, right? And everyone pushed me. They saw something in me or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So I'm trying to do as much good as possible by giving, right?
Yeah.
And it's great. It's a great feeling, and they actually love that I'm trying to reach out as well, right? Like they probably don't have a lot of people doing that.
How did you get? I mean, I'm going to turn the tables here and ask you. But how did you wind up getting into mentoring, and where do you find the people that you mentor?
So yeah, I was doing some speaking locally, and I the cities actually have a small business center,
Mm-hmm.
and I volunteered. I basically said, how can I do this? I've been working at this company, I have whatever experience, but I want to help business owners overcome some of the challenges that I've kind of gone through. And so they come in for a 6-week session, 6 times in 3 months, I guess. So every 2 weeks they come in, and we would just give an hour discussion kind of thing and really walk through what challenges they've had, what they did, have a plan, and kind of give them advice, right? But it's so much fun just seeing people with great ideas. And yeah, some are young, some are older, and some just has no clue of what they're doing, right? And why they're in business. But yeah, it's like there's a lot of people out there, and everyone has a dream of being their own boss, right? But not everyone is cut up for it, right? Like not
Mm-hmm.
everyone is going to be successful, and there might be a lot of failures before they become successful. But as long as they have that mindset of really continuing and being passionate and motivated to continue, I mean, anyone could really do it. That's why I believe, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But they need someone to keep pushing them along, right? Because
Yeah.
I see value in everyone. I like it doesn't matter whatever my staff is or my colleagues, my mentors. Everyone brings something that's unique, and they have a superpower, right? You just have to bring it out of them.
Right. Oh, I totally agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. I think, it's something, and your people that are listening to your podcast too also need to understand that sometimes those mentors aren't there to give you all the answers, because if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to burn yourself on the stove, right?
Yeah.
Your mentor is going to go, don't touch that. You're going to, oh, okay. Ow, that's hot. I burnt myself, because that's what entrepreneurs do, right? Like we have to fail to grow. And so a mentor isn't there to give you all the answers. Sometimes the mentor is there just to give you validation. Like, yes, that panic attack you had, that's everybody goes
Normal.
through that. You're not less of a person for that, right? It doesn't make you unqualify you for an entrepreneur, but that makes you better because now you can grow from that. So I think that, and I think a lot of people come to me for answers, right? A lot of people come to me, they say, I have this new idea. How do I get money? I'm like, well, you need to go
ask for money,
a prototype, get some traction. Like, what have you built so far? And they're like, I don't know. I just need $1 million. I'm like, all right, well, here's the painful truth of it. You need to go do this stuff because everybody does that, And so I think, yeah, so that's why mentors are really valuable, even if just from that standpoint. So that's really cool that you do that with a lot of people.
Yeah. I love it. Like everything I'm doing, even like helping people on this podcast, right? Like there's people listening that are thinking of starting a business or have been in business. They're just struggling, or there's things that they can improve on, or there's challenges, and they want someone to actually connect with them because it's a lonely space, right? Like there's other entrepreneurs exactly doing what they're doing and struggling and failing. So you're not alone, right? So
100% agree. Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. So, and I enjoy like just interviewing people as well, like people
Yeah,
that
and
I wouldn't be able to meet in person too.
yeah, you meet some really great people when you mentor too. You know,
Oh yeah, definitely.
there's a couple young gentlemen, early 20s, are starting a business. That's their product right here.
Oh
They
nice.
give me a bunch to sell, you know, and they're young, right? And so they're just so ambitious.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing to me. You
Yeah.
know, they always apologize, like, "Oh, thank you. I know you're busy." And I'm like, "No, man, it's like it's fun.
Yeah.
It's exciting for me to watch you go through the same trial because they were just going through this like a few weeks ago where they were drastically out of money. They're like, what do we do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, just, you know, do you really need a Netflix account right now? Like, cancel your Netflix, you know? And it's like, oh, yeah, I guess so, you know? So, you know, so it's just fun watching them go through that and grow because they're slowly becoming better and better at what they do.
Exactly. No, it's great. So in terms of like growing up, I know you mentioned like you've never really dreamt of being a business owner, right? But did you have to pivot? Like what kind of changed you from doing corporate and you know your friend pushing you? Like what kind of switched you to that mindset of steady income, good pension potentially, like all that to taking that risk of being an entrepreneur? Because as an entrepreneur, I get it. I worked in corporate as well, right? Great pension, great opportunity, but I just hated the environment. Like the prospect of this, I can't do this for many more years because I'm just not happy, right?
Yeah. You know, I would go back a little bit further from my days with my business partner. I'd go back to probably late 90s when I was working in home building.
Okay.
So I really put a lot of the catalyst on this. Like, so I was working as a home builder, as a director of purchasing for a big home builder. I was one of the youngest directors of purchasing. My management team was amazing. They were very supportive. I was getting paid a lot of money for my age. Just bought a new house, just bought a new truck.
Nice.
And I applied to a graduate school. I applied to Georgetown University to go back to their MBA. And I was in Arizona. This is DC at the time. It's just a place that I always dreamt of going and living. I had no inclination that I would get in, right? I didn't study for the GMAT. I sent in reference letters late. I applied just to apply to see what it was like. But in the process of applying, I had to ask my boss for a letter of recommendation. So I did. And probably about May of that, like 99, I think it was, or 2000, I don't remember which one. So he calls me to his office and he says, listen, I know you're going back to school. So there was a big major merger of two major home builders. So we had the opportunity to hire this guy to replace you when you leave. And I remember thinking like, hold on, dude, I'm not going anywhere. I didn't get accepted. You know, I'm not going to get accepted. And he kind of had this like come to Jesus moment with me. He's like, do you really want to go? And I'm like, yeah, I think so. Maybe no, I really don't. I want to stay here. I have a nice, comfortable life. And he's like, I think you ought to just, even if you don't get accepted, maybe you ought to just take a year off and figure things out. Right. So I panicked, went and had beers with my best friend and was like, man, I'm going to lose my house, my car, my whole life is upturned. This is awful. Yeah. And woke up the next morning and I felt like this weird, like, okay, maybe life's not easy. We'll figure it out, right? I'll figure it out. Yeah. And I actually got in. I got the acceptance letter. And I remember this overwhelming feeling of like, holy crap. Because here's the thing. And I talk to my old boss. I talk to him often. Well, I don't talk to him. I haven't talked to him in a while. But every time I talk, I always bring it up. I was like, you firing me might have been the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And he's like, oh, I didn't fire you. You were leaving. I'm like, no, you fired me. Like, I wasn't leaving. You fired me. Yeah. But if he hadn't replaced me, I think there's a very high likelihood I would have deferred because I was comfortable, and then I might have deferred again and figured out like I've already got everything. Why do I need to go back to school, right? Yeah. But ever since then, I went to graduate school, and then when everything fell apart because of 9/11, I got an offer to work overseas, which again was very foreign to me. I moved to Kazakhstan. Oh. I didn't speak the language. I didn't even know where it was. I didn't recognize any of the cities from the offer. It was a volunteer assignment, so I would have worked for nothing, basically. But I remember thinking, all right, yeah, let's do it. Why not? Sure, right? But I think it was the original, it was somebody pushing me out the door to say, you can't grow without, that was the first lesson. You can't grow without being uncomfortable. Like, there's no growth in comfort. Yeah. There really isn't. And so, yeah, I mean, I went on, I was really looking forward to staying in that consulting job overseas. Cause when they hired me, I was getting paid really well to fly all over the world and do consulting. And then my business partner and I talked about it, and he talked to me and was like, we got to give that up. But I think maybe for the second part, it was because I think the thought of, if I quit and go start a business and fail, I can always go back and get into this business again, which is true for anybody that does it. But I think that's the lesson. If somebody really wants, I don't encourage anybody to quit their job and go start a business, because that's a terrible idea. Start a job, do your side gig while you have comfort and your ability, work at night, work overtime, on your own time, get your proof of concepts, get your traction, get your prototype, prove that it works before you quit your job, but do it at least, right? Like it's uncomfortable to give up your Netflix Fridays, your binge watching on Fridays, to actually do something. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but there's no other way to do it unless you try. And you probably know that too.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Like when people are so comfortable and they are just used to routine, right? When things change, they don't even know what to do, right? Like what happens if, and they don't know how to, save money, or they've been living this life of luxury or whatever, like going dining out, traveling, or whatever it is. And then what happens if uncertainty, there's a job loss, like employers right now, right? Like you're relying on someone else to really provide you, right? That decent salary, benefits, etc. So being in control, I think that's the biggest benefit of being an entrepreneur, because you control what is going on with your life, right? You basically can, grow or scale or be successful or try different opportunities, right? But it's not for everyone either, right? Like people with different mindsets and they just comfort level is, they're just lazy or whatever it is. They just want to do the same routine every single day, right? And they're okay with that, and they're happy and content. But the ones that are business owners or entrepreneurs, it's different. Like we're just different breed out there, right? Like we are always looking to be more creative. We spot opportunities. We know there's challenges out there, and we help impact more people, right? And if we can provide a better solution or a solution to better people, that's what we're all about, right?
And listen, that is such a great and valid point for anybody that's listening, is entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And I always tell students this, that they're like, oh, I think I want to do entrepreneurship. Either you do or you don't, really, because you're right, it's a different mindset, and there is nothing wrong with somebody who wants to get a job and make a decent living, have their evenings and weekends off to go to their kids' soccer game. Like there's nothing wrong. There were times my business partner and I would go have a beer after work, and I'm not making this up. We would sit around. We were so stressed. We were so tied. We were just so consumed with everything that we literally would joke, be like, wouldn't it be great to be in jail? Because, you sleep 8 hours a day, you got access to a gym, a library, 3 square meals a day. Like that's amazing. Like no other worries except just waking up and doing, that would be amazing, because it was just non-stop. And it does take a mindset. Like I said, I had to grow and eventually get used to it and be able to control it. And it does take a little time. My business partner was always good at compartmentalizing it. I don't know how he did it. But yeah, I mean, it's not for everybody. Having a decent, it's nothing wrong with working up the corporate ladder and having that ambition. There's nothing wrong with having the ambition of staying in a different job. It's just a different mindset. And you have to figure out where you fit into that.
Exactly. And figuring out why you're doing and live with purpose, right? And passion.
Right.
Some of the challenges. So I just wanted to ask you, mistakes and challenges. Can you think of a couple that some of the listeners can kind of gain from some of them on your behalf?
Well, mistakes is easy because I don't think that there are mistakes if you're running a business. Like there's a lot of things I did that didn't turn out so well. Personally guaranteeing some loans, throwing everything into a shipment from China, just different, hiring the same person 2 times who, just making dumb mistakes like that. Those are mistakes, right? But I don't regret any of them because I'm not going to do them again. Right. It's a painful and expensive learning experience, but I don't think that you can be a good entrepreneur unless you've had those, right? So all you're hoping for is mistakes that don't completely sink you, that you can recover from, right? Because then you approach all those mistakes with the knowledge of what you had before. And so I've started way more companies and failed than this one company that I had. We had a tequila company that failed. We had a gift store that failed. There was a lot of stuff that failed, and we did a lot of things wrong. But again, all those things have prepared me to do something later. And I would have loved to have a lot of that money back in my pocket. I still owe people money, from my days. And so it's a part of being an entrepreneur. Challenges though, I will tell you that the biggest challenge I think we had, and that we've always faced, and the one I see that most entrepreneurs face, is this idea of like, I have to have money to do something. Mm-hmm. It's a constant thing, right? Like, if I just had $1 million, I would do this. Or if I just had $10,000, imagine what we could do. And my partner and I, a long time ago, I remember saying that we're going to eliminate the words if only, right? Because we got to stop saying if only, because we don't have an if only. Like the global economy is in a recession right now. We have no bank loans. We have no access to any kind of capital. So there's no if only we had money. It's like, what do we do? And so when entrepreneurs come in, they always say, well, gosh, I have this great idea. If only I had $10,000, I could get off the ground. All I need is $5,000 to get off the ground, or all I need is $1,000 to help me build a prototype. Well, you know what? Everybody's like that. So the entrepreneurs that succeed are the ones that are building it themselves. And, I just recently watched the documentary on Bill Gates on Netflix. And I was fascinated by the fact that I didn't realize that he built, Microsoft Windows. I always thought he was the guy with the idea, hired programmers, but he built that thing, right? He didn't have a lot of money. He went out and built it. He learned how to code. He built it himself, partnered with somebody who was better than him, with Paul Allen, built that thing, and then sold it, right? Steve Jobs was smart. He understood the code, but he partnered with Steve Wozniak to build what they were going to do, right? They didn't go out and raise a bunch of money. They just built it themselves. Mm-hmm. So if entrepreneurs can get over that idea of like, I have to have money to do it, and there are always ways to do it. Entrepreneurs succeed all the time without money. If you can figure out that and do what you need to do to succeed, cut out your Netflix, cut out your gym membership for the next 6 months because you don't really need it. There's $500 right there, that you could use for yourself and actually apply to the business. So that's the biggest challenge I think that I see most entrepreneurs have.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if you come from, or if you have backing, if you have people to support you, those are the ones that fail more regularly mm-hmm. than the ones that actually don't have anything, and it's up to them to succeed because everything's on the line, mm-hmm. right? So I'll just give you an example because you probably don't know my history, but I started this company 6 years ago, and at that time I left my job, corporate, I just got married, and I bought a home. And I started the business, right? So my why was very, very, I need to support and earn money right away to pay my bills, pay a mortgage, and make sure that I'm going to eventually support my family, right? So that was my true reason of why I started, and I had to make this a success. Yeah, mm-hmm. There were some challenging nights and a lot of bad customers that I took on. But I learned from that, right? And then over the years, I refined. I know my ideal customer. I know who my audience is and how I pitch it and who I value as a real partner and whatnot. But mm-hmm. yeah, you grow from it, right? And now I love what I do. I look back and I'm like, wow, how did I do that, right? But it pushed me to do what I had to do, right? Like mm-hmm. No one gave me anything, right? So I earned everything, and it's much more impactful, I felt, like just doing it on your own versus someone giving you that golden nugget or giving you some money, funding or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, I feel much better about it. Yeah, absolutely. Because
it's like you built it yourself. So you can build anything now. I feel like I could do whatever I want to, but right. I'm still loving what I do because, or else why would I continue doing it? Right?
Yeah. And you have kids?
Yeah, one son.
How old?
He's 4.
4. Okay, so I always like to think of a business like a kid. I mean, there's that cliche, it's like a child, but it really is like a child, right?
Yeah.
So once you have a child, you know, if you don't have money, you're going to figure out a way to feed your baby and put dry clothes on him, put cover over his head. You're going to do that, right? And a lot of people do that and they don't have money and they figure things out.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the same thing with a business. And so as that, you know, kid grows, like you're more proud of it, same as your business. I mean, there's a lot of ties in between children and businesses.
Yeah. And I think also your upbringing as well. Like if you come from, you know, some comfort versus someone that hasn't come from anything, and you know the spectrum of where, you know, you don't want to live or where you don't want to be again,
Mm-hmm.
where you eventually want to be. Like, I don't think a lot of people understand that, right? And cannot relate. So, you know, I came from an immigrant family and I didn't really have much growing up, 4 kids. My parents left Vietnam War. Like we just didn't have much. So us shopping at thrift stores, food banks, and just paying our rent, like all that drove us to be like, I don't want to do that, see that again when I grow up, right? Like it just, that mental state, like it's different, I think, when you've got kind of seen how bad it could be to where you can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah. And, you know, you say like people that have the money are actually people that, you know, can start off and they're comfortable. And I always find like they're the ones going out there and buying like an office space when they don't have office space.
Yes.
My business partner, I used to kid all the time because I was like, we'd always say if it was up to him, we'd be bankrupt in a week. If it were up to me, we would never do anything because I wouldn't spend any money, right? But we would always butt heads because like, do you really need that chair with the leather seats?
Yeah.
So, can you hold on for 1 second?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Nobody else here. We got one to sign.
Okay, sure.
Sorry about that. Sure. I heard you on the phone. I hate interrupting now. Where everybody go? They let you
I don't know, man. Like that's kind of freaky here when there's nobody. So.
Meeting day, maybe.
Yeah. Well, actually, right.
You know what? That's right. I'm running late today.
All right. Thank you. All right. Sorry. I guess you can edit that part out.
Yeah. I'll get my team to edit that. I just need to timestamp it somewhere. 11.
Okay. Apparently, there's nobody in the office to sign for packages, so I'm one.
Not a problem. So what were we talking about? Oh, about the. Oh yeah, your partner and you butt heads.
Oh, right. So, yeah. Yeah, and I see this a lot. My business partner and I used to butt head all the times because he'd go out and buy like a nice leather chair for the office, and I'd think, "Oh, come on, what are you doing? Like, why are you buying an office chair?" And he's like, "It makes me feel better." And so, like I said, we had a very nice balance because again, I was so frugal and conservative that I wouldn't have spent anything. So we balanced each other off. We balanced each other very well. But you're right. I mean, it's where I came from a very comfortable family. You know, we did shop frugally, but my parents never made us feel like we were shopping frugally, you know. But I do get that, right? You have to put yourself in that situation where you have to understand that living like that is living uncomfortably as you start a business is not such a bad thing. You know, again, I tell the story in my 1 Million Frogs. I used to sleep and we used to have a van. We would drive vans instead of staying in hotels. I would sleep in the van, you know, or I would take every roll of toilet paper and shampoo and conditioner from the hotels I stayed in because it's like, well, we're paying for this, right? So I'm okay if I take the toilet paper, because we just literally could not afford that. You know, we were barely paying for gas to get to places and so forth. Yeah. So, and you know, I hated it. I really didn't like it. And I even tell it, my business partner and I both tell a story that one year we had kiosks at the mall, and I remember I had a kiosk in Georgia. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, working a kiosk during Christmas. And somebody that I knew from my Central Asian days, a young colleague, she was at school, she was going to college in Georgia. I have no idea, right? Walks by and sees me, you know, and I'm working a kiosk with a shirt that says, you know, got frogs, name tag. And she was kind of like, what's going on? I'm like, oh yeah, I started a business. And cause you know, I was a high paid consultant before that.
Yeah.
And that Christmas, Christmas is big. My birthday's on Christmas Eve, so I make a big deal out of Christmas. And that Christmas Eve, I went to a Japanese restaurant because it was the only place open that night, and celebrated Christmas with a bunch of strangers because, we, and I was like, oh, this is my life. What's happening here? But ever since then, I was like, I don't want that. We have to figure a way to make this work.
Exactly.
And we did. Like I said, we busted and we figured it out. But yeah, unless you're willing to go through that, I think you're not going to appreciate where you're going to go.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people, like entrepreneurs, right? Like you have to at least have a failure like that or go through some pain to understand where you don't want to see that again, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're lucky if you're able to be successful in your first kind of journey, right? Like your first business. But a lot of people fail miserably, right?
That's okay.
Or give up. Majority of people just give up, right?
That's a good point.
After, spending X amount of time, it's just not for me, or, but the ones that actually persevere and do something about it and change their habits or make significant, shifts and adjustments, they're the ones that succeed, right?
Right. Yeah. I'll give you one more example. And if these guys ever hear me talking about them, they'll know who I'm talking about. But the younger guys I'm helping mentor right now, they're distributing a product and they have a PO from a major retailer right now.
Yep.
So they're on a big capital raise. They need to raise money to fund this PO at this major retailer. Yep. And over the last couple of weeks, I've had this conversation with them where they're like, this company is going to fail if we don't raise money. Like, we have to raise money or we have to close up. I was like, dude, you have like $2,000 in sales every month and that's going up. Like, you're doing really well online. Now, if you lose that retailer, yes, that sucks. It just means you're gonna have to wait another 10 years before you're on the Forbes 500. But right now you have business, right? You're paying the bills in the company. You have growing online sales. Is it going to take you much longer than this dreamy vision of being in this mass retailer right now? Yeah. But don't say your business is sunk because you have income. Like, you have a business right now and it's working. And so, but they're just so like, God, if I don't do this, we're going to fail. I'm like, no, you have a good product. You have good distribution. You have great minds. You have us as mentors. You can make this work. Right. Yeah. You're just going to have to grind it out for a little bit longer. They've been doing it for 2 years. So they're ready for like a big blow up. I'm like, yeah, well, you're going to have to grind it out a little bit longer if it doesn't work. But, I'm not going to let you quit because I'm vested in you. I don't want to see you just walk away from this. It's dumb or maybe I figure out how I take over your business because I think it's a good business. Yeah. But you're right. Most of them just quit because they have this dreamy vision of big office space with a leather chair and a secretary who does everything for you. All you do is lead meetings, and it just doesn't work that way. Like, it takes years. I mean, every big corporation is taking 20 years for them to get to where they are.
So what they see is, some social posts, or they read and watch these shows and they dream like billionaires, right? Or millionaires. And they're young, they're in their 20s, and they think they want to be like that in a year or 2 years, but they don't understand, like, most of these business owners are in their 50s and 60s, and they've gone through the, trouble. And maybe you hit like a Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, 1 in a trillion to make it when he's in his 20s, right? Like, look at Jeff Bezos, like Amazon. He's been doing it for so many years. Yeah. It's just now that he's getting a lot of recognition, right?
Yeah. And by the way, he just like Bill Gates, he built that.
Exactly.
He was the one that wrote it, built it, and created it. Like, he didn't just go out there, I have this great idea, I'm gonna go do it. Like, he built it.
Exactly. So all these people that like are super ultra successful, like, they've gone through so many years and probably failed, Apple, they failed so many times before they made it successful, right? Like, but yeah, they're very large companies. You're a small little company. So think like, you can't be like them because that's unreasonable. So think about, like, what does success mean to a business owner too, right? Like, figure out what your purpose is. Is it to eventually buy a home or travel or whatever it is, live somewhere else, whatever it is, like, that should be your goal, not like trying to raise millions of dollars in value at 5 million and 20 million, whatever. Like, these are kind of, I see it all the time, right? And people don't really understand that.
Yeah, and you bring up, I mean, and that's a good point. I'm sure you do this as well, but like one of the first things I ask everybody that comes in and asks for mentorship is I'll go and write yourself a vision statement for yourself and like 5 goals. Like, what does success look for you in 10 years from now? You know, because if it is a fat paycheck, I'm going to just go ahead and guarantee you that the odds are, you know, if you finish school, because they're usually students, and you go get a job and work up your way up the corporate ladder, you're going to be better off. Yeah. You know, it's because you're young and you don't have the experience. You know, but if your goal is to get some experience and have some control and you're passionate about something, oh yeah, do it now while you're young. Yeah. And you can bounce back. You don't have kids and a house and all sorts of things you lose. Do it now. Like, get it out of your system or get it into your system at that point, you know, and then go from there.
No, that's a really good point. So what has another question I want to ask you. So have you used technology over the last couple of years for your, you know, consulting gig, and have you seen it grow and evolved? Softwares, or what have you kind of used for your businesses? Because you probably mentor and you see a lot of businesses. The barriers to entry is so low today, right? But people don't see it that way. They don't even realize, like 20 years ago, you didn't have a computer.
I know, right? Yeah.
So, how have you used that to your advantage?
Well, I'm a kind of a productivity freak. Probably a little bit too much. I've tailored back a little bit, but there for a long time I was very much into like, how do I hack my productivity and become more productive? Yeah. And I really got into like this spiral of trying new things all the time, to the point where I would spend days transferring and relearning, and I was like, you know, so it was actually last year, the beginning of this year, I decided I'm going to just stop trying to be so productive and just get myself into a routine. So I actually I took a class on Skillshare, which I think is always, that's the other thing about entrepreneurship, is you're always learning. You should always be curious. So technology wise has helped me plan my days better. Like, I live off my calendar. You and I talked about that, blocking things for ourselves, making sure that I block time for things that I need to do that are long-term, not put out a fire now, but like long-term, work toward those goals. And I also use, a to-do list. I actually use the app Todoist to help me track, because I wanted something frictionless that I could easily send emails to. I can easily put in my task, because if I don't write it down, it doesn't exist, right? If it's not in my email box, it's on my to-do list, then it doesn't exist. So I've got it narrowed down to an email list, a to-do list, and a calendar, all electronic, that tie into my phone, so I can on a daily basis keep track of the important things that are going on. And that's basically, but I'm still analog. I still keep an old journal, to reflect and keep stuff down. So I use it for productivity. It's been great, but otherwise I try to stay clear, because it's just evolving so much and so fast that I can't keep up with it, And so, we were going to introduce Trello for our local consultants here. And then next thing you know, we had 365 Office, and we have, it's a disaster. So I like to keep things very simple and not get caught up in the technology.
And that's one thing I totally agree, right? Like, by the time you change your different systems and processes, and people might not even be comfortable with whatever you're trying to implement, right? So there's going to be like a pushback, right? Every time there's a change or new technology and you think it's going to be better for you, productivity, like there's a new API for some of the new, workflows and whatnot, it's probably going to harm you more than actually implementing. So you really have to reflect and see if it really is going to help overall everyone that's actually going to use it or not, right? Mm-hmm. So we try to simplify things as well. Like, we have, a lot of people on staff and whatnot. So we use, the simple Google Drive, and we have Trello, we have different chat features, Slack, and we just have a lot of different things, but people use it for different purposes. And I sometimes go old school as well. I bring that notepad and I just write it down, but whatever works for you, just continue doing it, right? Yeah. Because so what? Some people may be good at using their app and using voice and speaking on it, and then it just transcribes, whatever it is. That's great for them. But whatever is good for you, you have your own system, right? Mm-hmm. Just go with it and stick with it. As long as it works and you get things done, just do it.
Yeah, that's really important. I'm a clean desk person. Like I like my desk clean at the end of the day. My business partner was not a clean desk guy. And so there'd be, I still remember times I'd go to his desk and I would like, oh my God, what the hell? Like, and I'd move something and like, there's an invoice. Why is there an invoice? And I'd move it. And then he'd come in later that day and he's like, who moved my stuff? And I'm like, I just moved your pile over here. And he's like, I'm looking for something and now I can't find it because you moved that one pile for me. Like he knew where it was, so you're right. Everybody's different. Some people are very, very detailed like myself, and I like things in a nice, neat package. Other people aren't. And you really need to actually just accept it. I'll give you another example is something I realized a couple of years ago is that I'm a procrastinist.
Yeah.
All right. And I was really, that's part of my being productive, was really trying to overcome this procrastination that I was really bad at. And I took some personality assessment a couple of years ago that tells you to focus on your strengths. And my strengths were more thinking than trying to actually, process. And I really was honest with myself. I was like, I'm really, really good at getting things done at the last second.
So
like I turn out really good work, right? I do, because then I can just laser focus and I know it's got to be done by 12 o'clock. So I'm going to laser focus and I'm going to do it. And then finally I was like, I'm going to stop trying to procrastinate and just accept it, right? And just really focus on this procrastination. So I think a lot of people focus on their failure, their weaknesses, and just say like, I need to fix that. But if they spend too much time fixing their weakness, if they spent that much time focusing and capitalizing on their strengths, you get an exponential return on that investment. So I think you also have to know where your weaknesses are. And if you be honest with yourself and just really focus on your strengths.
Yeah. I mean, self-reflect, right? Knowing what you're good at and just continue doing it. And the stuff that you're not good at, just admit that you're not good at it and find someone to do what you're not good at, right?
Right.
And because those cost you time and money, right? So if you spend so much, and you're going to be stressed and miserable doing the stuff you hate anyways, right? So push it off to someone else that can do it and you'll be happier.
Oh yeah, big time.
So great. In terms of networking events, do you believe in them? Have you been to any of them? And what can you tell some of these entrepreneurs out there about networking events?
Yeah, I mean, I 100%. I'm an introvert too, which sucks because I hate networking events, but they are an absolute must for any entrepreneur, because not only are you going to connect with potential money sources or suppliers, but you could potentially meet co-founders or people that are going to support your business. I have never had a bad experience with networking. And it's actually something we practice and I really emphasize on professional development for our students, because I have one student now that got a gig at JP Morgan Chase because of a networking event, right? And another student who is trying to get into Accenture because of a networking, because she ran into somebody in New York who happened to be from Coastal Carolina, and she was at this networking event doing so. So yeah, I mean, it's for extroverts, it's easy. Yeah. For introverts or people like myself, it's a little bit harder, but you have to do it. I mean, there's just no way around it. You can't build something by yourself, no matter how great you are. Every great entrepreneur, every great business is built off of a team led by somebody, but nobody builds it by themselves. So yeah, I believe in networking. Absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah, I totally agree as well. Like you have to get out there and you have to be comfortable with communicating and having a strong message, right? Not selling what your message is, but maybe just giving people value, right? Letting people know what you do or how you can help them, right? Because if you care and you feel like you can offer them something of value, they'll remember you.
Yeah.
Right?
No, networking is not about selling. Sometimes it is, right? Sometimes it is, but it's about curating relationships. In fact, the first time I ever meet anybody, I don't try to sell them anything. It's like, who are you? I want to follow up. Let's grab some lunch. How do I, what needs do you have? What are your kids' names? Like that kind of stuff. So yeah, it takes time. That's the thing about networking is it takes time. It's like a soup that you have to let boil. Yeah.
Or even relationships take time, right? Clients take time to garnish. Like everything takes time, right? And the longer you're in it for the right reasons, then when you need something, you can always reach out, right?
Right.
So it's like, you don't want to reach out, and there's so many people that do it for the wrong reasons, right? Like you get all these inbox spam emails and messages all the time, right? It's like, I'm offering this, it's like, okay, who are you? Come, if you really want to help me, come and help me, right?
Right.
But
understand who I am first, understand what my needs are.
exactly. But it's funny. So in terms of what drove you to become who you are, so, it seems like you're loving what you're doing. You're kind of doing your teaching, but consulting gig. What has kind of driven you to your point today versus how has it changed over the years? Has the purpose kind of changed over the years?
Yeah. I mean, my purpose changed 13 years ago when I had kids, like as you know, everything changes. In fact, one of my first dates with my wife, long ago, she was telling me, she's like, she actually literally said, "You are too selfish for a family." And she was 100% right. Like, I had no desire to have a family. All my missions and goals were about Fortune 500 cover, start a business, because I was working my business at that point. I really didn't even think about it. So, fast forward. In fact, I get a lot of students that ask me that, about, why don't you running a business now? I'm like, because my passion right now is my kids. My passion right now is my family. And so that's my mission statement. I still want to achieve things, and I still want to do great things and have things that I'm proud of and have a legacy. But right now the mission is my family. So I don't want to step on that before I get there. And like I said, when they're 18, man, I'm just waiting because I'm going to kick them out and, get back to doing the things that I like to do when I was single, so, and they know that. We joke around about it all the time. So I think it really does sitting down and having an honest assessment of what your passions and what I call your vision, where you want to be, and your mission, how you get there, right? And have a clear understanding of that. So, I also tell people, don't set goals for 10, 20 years from now, because especially in today's business environment, I mean, who knows, right? Who knows? And you also don't want to say, like, 20 years from now, I want to be a CPA, have my own law firm, when 7 years from now, you get the best opportunity in your lifetime. Yeah. And you're like, I should probably try that, So I say set 5 or 10-year goals. Every career I've had has been about 5 to 7 years. Even the business was 8 years. I'm in this for 5, so I've got a couple more years before I figure out what the next one is. But it's nice. It's actually nice to be in our environment now, where we can actually change jobs as long as we're staying up to date. It adds a lot of flexibility for people.
Yeah, but there's a lot of change for a lot of the younger people, and there's no stability. Mm-hmm. And that's the challenge as well, right? Like, people are moving way too often in their
career. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wait, I think it's okay that you move jobs. I always tell students that, like, I think the students are all, like, younger generations now are not expected to work in the same business for the rest of their life. That was my dad's generation. Yep. Work, get a pension, retire, live comfortably. My generation was like, work, working a job your entire life, and we skipped. And I think the next generations are like, okay, we just want to get 5 or 10 good years out of you, and we need to do what we need to do to keep you here. And we're going to keep our good people. But I think the expectation is, like, most of these people are going to leave. They're going to try new things, and most businesses are going to change, and whole skill sets are going to change. So,
and we don't know what's going to happen either, right? Like, with technology and advent of AI or machine learning and all this stuff happening, like, look at how the advancements of everything in the last 10 years has been, right? Like, there's new industries, new companies, new business ventures everywhere, right? And if you don't look at that and you're not open to change, you're going to get destroyed, right?
Right, yeah.
You're not going to be in business. You're going to become obsolete, right? And there's going to be new businesses kind of replacing you. So at least stay up to date with stuff, right?
Yeah.
So aside from business, it seems like you're pretty happy with family, your health, and you do contribute. So there's, like, all these other pillars than business. Mm-hmm. Where does business stand out of all of them?
Right now, not super high.
Pretty low, yeah. Which is fair enough, right?
Well, I mean, I will tell you, like, I have put a lot of time and effort into my consulting business, getting consulting gigs off the side and doing things that are out of the realm of the stuff here at the university. because, you know, anybody that gets into university life knows you're not going to make a lot of money. You don't get into lecturing to make a lot of money, right? I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing this because my opportunity to give back, spend some time with my kids, start this cool consulting curriculum, which is really interesting. But, you know, I do put a lot of focus on the business consulting, especially in the summertime in my off hours, because I really, really like working one-on-one with entrepreneurs to grow the business. So for me, you know, it's probably family. It is definitely health. You know, as you get older, you realize it, you know, and people are getting sick around you, like how important that is. So those are like the two things that I block time for, that I won't sacrifice, because I want to make sure that I have time for that. And then and actually, to be honest, it's probably personal endeavors. Is my, you know, learning new things. I'm really trying to learn more about data analytics, rehash my statistics classes and all that stuff, because that is what the future, I think, is is being able to analyze data, and then the business side of it. But, you know, guaranteed when my kids turn 18, all that's going to shift. Because I have a lot of things I want to do still.
No, that's awesome. And then, like, how do listeners get a hold of you now? Like,
oh, well, thanks for asking. Well, you can find me at Peter Paul Advisors. It's Peter and Paul Advisors.com. That's my, that'll actually direct you to my website for getting a hold of me. And on my website, you can collect, you know, I would welcome anybody to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love connecting on LinkedIn or any other social media platforms. By and large, that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Or you can just go to petergasca.com.
Perfect. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed our conversations, and definitely we'll get together one day.
Yeah.
Wherever up north, or when I come visit South Carolina, I'll ring you up.
Come in the wintertime. It's really warm down here.